I'm Bradley Cranzo, and I'm the owner and manager of the Bradco Video Store, which is located here in my basement at Linden, New Jersey. Basically, it's a little privately owned store, I can safely say, since I run and own it. I never intended to have a video store in my basement. Even when I was 18, 19, I already had I think I had 5,000 movies when I was around age 18, 19. And it became, an obsession in a way, especially. I was buying storage shelves, trying to keep everything in my house as neat as I possibly could, but it was very difficult, I would have shelving units in the kitchen. I'd have them in the main hallway. It overtook the house. My parents used to complain, my grandfather especially. He said, "Why are you wasting all your money buying these movies for?" Little did he know I would grow up to be a filmmaker, though. So truthfully, buying all these films, I attribute that to my ideas and the way I make my movies. I mean, I'm influenced by the things that I buy and, watch. Every item in this video store has a purpose, and there's no limit to what there is down here as far as inspiration. If I'm ever clogged in my mind, my collecting contributes to my making movies. If I need a story element that I can't seem to find, I'll just go down here randomly and I'll, spin myself around 3 times maybe and just pick a movie at random, and the next thing you know, there's my idea. Whereas a lot of people now, like I was saying earlier about the internet, they just go on the internet and they type in stuff. But once again, it's the physical object here, being able to touch it, feel it, and look at it in person. The overall goal of having a video store in my basement, 3 things actually. Number 1, it makes for a great movie set. If I ever want to shoot a movie in a video store, I got it. Number 2, it's almost like a personal den, like how somebody has their little room where they say they're a hunter. They put animals up on the wall. It's their shrine. This video store is my shrine to myself as a collector of VHS and also as a filmmaker, because it's an extension of my mind. It branches out all the ideas that I have, and they're all put on a shelf in a VHS cover in a sense. And the third reason that I have the video store is basically because I don't know, it felt right. I always like going into a video store and, just messing around, looking through titles and renting. There's a feeling that you have when you're in the video store and you're going through the movies and you're trying to figure out what you want to watch that night. I can't explain it. It's almost like when you go downhill kinda and you get like that sort of butterfly in your stomach type of feeling. I don't know if that's an exact description of what it is, but it just feels so good to have a video store. It's amazing to have it. When they ask me what attracts me to VHS, a dead format as they call it, I tell them quite frankly that what was around back in the day is much better than what's around now. And that's in terms of the artwork on the VHS and the movie itself. A lot of movies today rely on CGI, special effects. Since I'm a horror fan, that's the one thing I notice a lot about the horror movies today. I don't like a lot of them because of the CGI, and I'm not a fan of the actors. There's just not that same caliber of performance that we used to have back then, and it's true. So when I answer their question, I tell them, number 1, everything looked better back then, and number 2, everything was actually better back then. Music, movies, fashion, hell, just the general attitude of the country. I mean, I'll admit I wasn't, exactly around back in the day in the 70s. I was around the 80s. I was born in the 80s. So I kind of have a little taste of it. And I can safely say that the older generation is the better generation, and the products and items of that generation will live on forever because it's just better. Today's culture is today's culture is missing an element. And that element missing is a touch of the old. They say something old, something borrowed, something new. Today's society doesn't seem to have too much that's old, and we need that. Well, the Bradco video store that we're in right now, I have been thinking about opening it up for rent. I wouldn't mind, doing that. Especially I could use the extra money, so if I can get it that way, it'd be great. But at the same time, it's sort of like a dangerous element because I don't want to put all these rare tapes out there and take a chance that somebody may not return it, or they might break it, or it might wear out. So I'm sort of in between. I'm not against it, but I would need some persuasion to probably go after it. If I had more doubles of my movies, I would do it without a doubt. I prefer VHS compared to Blu-ray and regular DVD for The main reason is just, once again, because of the quality. I love seeing that VHS. I don't want to say grainy, because it's not too grainy, but there is a grain element there, and I think that contributes to why I like the quality. It just looks older. When you watch something on VHS, you have those deficiencies. It makes it look older. Whereas with Blu-ray, everything looks crystal clear. It looks too good. That's the way I like to talk about Blu-ray when I talk about it. I say everything on Blu-ray usually looks too good. And nothing is meant to be perfect. Everything has a flaw, and it's supposed to have a flaw. When you take those flaws away, you take away from the entertainment sometimes. The main number one reason why I love VHS is because VHS symbolizes the one thing I truly love, and that's the 80s. You can't have the 1980s without VHS, and I am the embodiment of the 1980s in terms of style, fashion, and the fact that I have my own video store. And that pretty much is the entire story.
Nice. Yeah, that was really good.
My name is Brian Connolly. I'm the manager of Vulcan Video in Austin, Texas. And we love VHS here, and I'm the main person in charge of putting out all these movies to rent. I love video a lot, so much I have a tattoo of one right on my arm. And I've been obsessed with VHS since I can remember being obsessed with movies, because that was the first movies I saw were on video well before I went to the movie theater.
Well, what got you into collecting originally, collecting tapes?
Well, I mean, it just basically started because I loved movies so much. I was obsessed with movies when I was really young, like, 11, 12, and I joined the Columbia House Videotape Club, and because they had, you can get 12 videotapes for free, or for like a penny. And so I ordered 12 VHS tapes, and because they were videotapes, they came in a huge box. I'm sure if Columbia House even still exists, I'm sure it's a much smaller box now, but it was like this huge box of videos. And then I had to buy the ones I had to buy to get the free ones. And then I got a job specifically kind of so I could buy a lot of movies, and my mom would take me to Suncoast Video at the mall once a month. At the end of every month, I would save up $100 and just buy as many videos as I could that looked great. And then that was sort of what started this building love of VHS. Well, my mom is very understanding of my collecting of movies, because I got it from her. She has a whole closet of horror videotapes. She loves Hammer horror films and any 50s sci-fi horror, and so she would when I would go to buy a bunch of stuff, she would buy a bunch of stuff too. So it wasn't what are you wasting your money on? She'd oh, I'm gonna buy all these movies too. And Christmas time, birthdays, we would always get movies. And I remember every Christmas when we were a kid, all of our stockings would each have I have two younger brothers, and we would each have a VHS tape waiting for us Christmas morning. So we'd wake up and be like, oh boy. And it was usually whatever the new big movie was. So there was one year where I got Tim Burton's Batman. My other brother got Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and then my other brother got I want to say Mary Poppins or something like that. It just came out on, no, it was E.T. So it was those three. And it was brand new VHS, perfect fitting for a Christmas stocking. And that was sort of the tradition for a few years, was just we'd get a brand new VHS. I remember a birthday where they gave me every Indiana Jones movie, every Star Wars movie. It was just, we even had an Easter where we got a videotape in an Easter basket of The Wind in the Willows. The Disney version was in my Easter basket, and that was the only time that ever happened. We never got a video before or after for Easter, but that one, it was late 80s. We're just oh, videotape for Easter, all right. The best video hunt ever was we went to Winston-Salem to pick up film prints for the Alamo, and the guy who who worked at this college there, who was helping us with the film prints, he was like, what do you guys want to do today? And we were just oh, well, do you know any place where we can get VHS tapes? And it was just the guy got really serious and looked at us, and he's like, are you fucking with me? And we're like, no. And he's like, are you kidding? Are you serious? And we're like, no, why? And he's like, my dad has this large VHS tape thing at a swap meet. And we're like, really? And he's like, yeah, you didn't know that? And we're like, no, we didn't know that. And he's like, why would you want to go there? We're like, are you kidding me? Yes, that is definitely what we want to do. So he drove us out there, and it was in the middle of just nowhere, to swap meet, and the guy had so much amazing stuff. It was the best collection of VHS I'd ever seen for sale. It was nuts. And I got so excited that I kind of went blind for I couldn't focus. I couldn't I just had to take it in. It took like an hour for me to calm down because it was just like everywhere I looked was like, oh my gosh, this video I'm looking for, and this one. And Zach was the same way. We were just like we were just like we were in shock, and it was and they were, I was kind of dusty, and it was like in the middle of the swap meet, so my allergies were horrible there, and so like my eyes were red, and my eyes just got so red, and I was sneezing, and I felt terrible. But we just were there for like 8 hours, just like going through everything, just piling them up. We spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars we did not even plan on spending on this trip, and we just filled up the van we were in with videotapes, just so much stuff, we couldn't believe it. And so at the end of that day, the guy was just like kind of confused as to why anyone would buy this many tapes. And he's like, well, if you want, like I have like way more at my house. Do you guys want to go through those? I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So the next day we went to his house, and he had a room in his house that was literally just a pile of videotapes, like just in a pile, like not like in any order. And you had to like dig through this pile. We had to dig through this pile to find like what tapes were in the middle. And then he had a whole other garage full of videotapes, and we were again, my allergies were awful, but it was just like we just kept finding so much stuff we've been looking for like our entire lives, and we were crying, we were so excited. It was like finding treasure. It was insane, and we just could not believe it. And we came back and told all their friends and made them all very jealous and sad, and they were like, this is the greatest like haul of videos we have ever seen in our lives ever.
Well, I'm Bruce Holochek. I've been, I guess, on and off collecting, I should say, since probably the early 90s. Although actually my first VHS tapes, I think, were sometime in the late 80s. I remember going with my parents to Sears or Montgomery Ward's or one of those sort of stores because they needed to buy a new appliance, like a new washing machine or something, and going through and finding the tape rack that they had there. Actually, should we turn off the AC?
Talk a little.
Yeah, talk.
Is it kind of drowning out? Or?
Yeah, when you talk, it drowns out, so you can barely hear it when you talk.
Okay.
Okay.
So should I restart the story?
You can keep telling the story.
So-
Well, the next question is what got you into collecting, so I guess
Right.
you're getting into it.
Yeah, so the first tapes I actually ever remember picking up were, I was with my parents at, Sears, Montgomery Ward's, or wherever it was. And they had to, pick up a new washing machine or something along those lines. And I found the tape rack, and I was looking through, and I saw a tape on there called Thou Shalt Not Kill Except. And as I was going around the side, I saw another one called The Hills Have Eyes. And both movies of, I'd read about in Fangoria. But my local video store at the time didn't have them. And I just really wanted to see these movies. You see these pictures in Fangoria of Thou Shalt Not Kill Except with Sam Raimi, who, by that point I knew was being from director of Evil Dead. You see him with a bandana on, his gunked up teeth and dreadlocks. And I'm like, I need to see this movie. So I took my allowance money and bought them. They were the Star Maker, like just terrible quality, like EP speed tapes. And I remember taking them up to my parents and being like, I want these. And they're like, why? Like, why on earth would you want to buy something that, why not just get it from the store and, rent it and tape it? I said, no, the store doesn't have it, and I need to see these movies. So those were the first two tapes that I remember buying, and which I actually still have to this day, which is ridiculous. And they're like so worn down and just terrible looking. Because I think I probably rewatched them both like, 100 times, gone through that. But that had to be, I think I was probably like 12 maybe, so that was like the very late 80s. A lot of the fun of it was trying to get these stuff, the search for it, just driving around, you never knew what you were going to find. You could go into any store and just have stuff. And then if they did have, they'll have some sort of crazy, MPY tape or, a couple Sun videotapes. And then trying to talk these places into giving them to you was, that was half the battle right there. Or, I can remember, there's things that, when you're younger, you just do the ballsiest shit. That doesn't seem like I can't even imagine doing this nowadays, but I can remember going into a store and just talking to the guy that worked there, just the kid. You figure he's making minimum wage, So it's like, he doesn't care too much. So you slip him $20, you bring up the tapes you want, he'll put them in the bag, and you're basically just robbing them with their permission, and just, walking out. Just their ugly girl behind the counter, just be real sweet and, talk to her a bit and, see what happens. Before you know it, they'll, you buy 3 tapes, they'll end up giving the other 10 you had, slipping those in your bags. One of the best things that we found, there was a local chain called Movie King. And some of them were going out of business here and there. And I ended up calling the corporate number and going up the corporate ladder, making, talking like 5 or 6 different people, and finally finding out that they were sending all of the overstock from these closed down stores to a warehousing facility in Delaware, and talk them into letting us go and just pillage this place. And so me and my friend Eric would go up there probably like once every 3 weeks or so, and it was just a constant rotation of stock. You would go in there, and I mean, it was unbelievable. You'd find, like, I probably grabbed, probably half of my Moguls there, a good chunk of Continentals, a lot of the Super Tapes, tons of old private screenings, but you would go in and it'd just be racks. There's just multiple copies of, when was the last time you can go in and find like 6 copies of The Forest on Prism just sitting right there, and something else next to it, and 4 copies of Night of the Howling Beast, and they were just selling them for like $250 a pop. So you would just go up and just blow through $800 just grabbing everything you could, and then you go up and it'd be a whole new batch of stuff, the next time you were there. There was a lot of ethnic video stores actually down in southern Maryland too, like a lot of Asian stuff. I remember going down the one, because 2 of the guys from my old band went to college down in College Park, Maryland, which is, around the outskirts of DC. I remember going down there and, I had one of those Go Video double-deck VCRs. I'd go and, try to tape a bunch of Kung Fu stuff whenever I'd go down there. And there was this one place that had a ton of Tai Seng videotapes for rental, and they were $1 a pop to rent. So I'd grab newest Jet Li or Jackie Chan movies, or anything that looked kind of off the beaten path, and take them back and run a couple dupes. You'd rent 5 or 6, and I'd be done. I went in there one time and take up a couple movies to the counter, and the lady at the counter, this is the part that's probably gonna get me pegged as racist. She's like, "You rent or you buy?" And I said, "What? What do you mean?" She's like, "You rent $1, you buy $1. I said, "Okay, so let me get this straight. So I give you $1, I take this, and I never come back." She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, holy shit. So I just go over and literally grabbed every movie they had in the entire place. It was like, probably about like 350 Tai Seng tapes. And normally, like, Tai Seng at the time was, they were running, like $40, I think, a pop. So, I mean, to grab them for $1 each. I mean, I was grabbing like romantic comedies and just like anything. I didn't even care. I was just like, $1, why not? So yeah, those were some fun times.
All right, well, I am Dave Walter, General Manager and owner of Plan 9 Video here in Bloomington, Indiana, which is it's been a video store for almost 30 years now, since 1982, although the name has changed. It began up in Martinsville, Indiana, in about 1982, under the ownership of Kerry Scott, a local legend, who moved down here in 1995, and that's when the name change happened. It used to be Video City, which was actually the video store that I went to as a child. I more or less grew up in Martinsville, and so this was, many of these fine videos were the ones that traumatized me as a youth. And then, so he moved down here in 1995, and then he had a cerebral hemorrhage in like 2003, and then my friend Chris and I took it over for him. We had been volunteering here for a long time, and then it just kind of fell to us to like keep it going, and then eventually we just formalized ownership. Kerry's still around. He's down in Atlanta, Georgia, but we took it over, and it's been going somewhat well ever since. A lot of the time, I can remember not a pre-record, but saving up to buy a tape to tape things off TV, Super Avalon, TDK. Like I bought it was $20 to buy, and this is of 1985 dollars. Like with half of my birthday money, I'll buy a tape like that you can record on. So, and that was what I taped, and I kick myself so vigorously over having taped over all this shit. I just taped over it, like that was good. Tape over it. Like we shot movies, taped over them, and then like because tapes were fucking expensive, like $20, and they dropped in price pretty sharply, but then you could tell that those were shittier tapes. Like the nice, I remember Super Avalon was, give me the $20 tape. Didn't know, because again, nobody knew anything about these movies. You couldn't there was no information about them. You had to get across, like, this is the scariest movie of all time. So the hyperbole on the boxes was great. The image would always be extremely striking. Like, it was just, they arose in an era where there was, the amount of information about these movies was just nil. You would just, all you had to go on was just a single image and then some ad copy on the back. And I think that challenge to the film, or like the film marketers, like created this like strange era where they could lie openly and like just nothing could disprove them. You couldn't get on like Rotten Tomatoes, 4% or whatever. There was no way to know that these claims were bullshit, and so they could just claim anything and then make an image that was horrifying. I mean, like the onus was on them to make a box that was as scary as it possibly could be, and they didn't have to back it up with, like, once they got your rental dollar or you bought the movie, I mean, they got you. So I mean, it's like the challenge was on to just stick it to you with that one image. And I think that, being the realities of the marketplace, created just some amazing box art, and that's what I really respond to. I think it's like that. I don't know, and just from a nostalgia perspective, like what those boxes represented to me as a kid, of like the horrors that might lurk inside those boxes, was very potent, and that is something I still like. When I see these boxes, part of me still remembers that feeling of like, what could be in there? What could, and your brain starts spinning, and like you have these horrifying images, and like it's probably even worse, like, I don't know. It was a neat, strange time. So that I feel is what really drives, like, why I liked it, why I continue to like it, and I think it really is what people are responding to. It's like, it's neat stuff.
My name is Dimitri Samakis. I am Ghoul School and Everything is Terrible, and I am a VHS collector and archivist, and I don't know. I like this shit. My personal holy grail is a tape that I found in Chicago called Mark and Sherry's Wedding. I put it up on Everything is Terrible. It was the first video I made with Everything is Terrible, and it is just the most true to life. It is an actual wedding video in 1991 from a couple named Sherry and Mark, and it is the most beautiful, sad thing I've ever seen in my life. And the first thing I did was try to make a music video out of it, but the whole thing, and I'd love to play that thing in its entirety. It is a thing of beauty. It is a work of art, and it's that kind of stuff that I try to find. That's a whole nother world to this stuff that a lot of people don't really, it's just harder to find, is stuff that there was only really 5 copies made, stuff that was made for personal use. The goal isn't necessarily to make fun of it or even laugh at it or anything, but sometimes it's like the only gold mines left. Because I think when there is only a certain amount of movies made, I mean, it's almost endless. But when it comes to that stuff, when it comes to stuff shot by a family member, meant for their family, that's a thing of beauty. It can be super boring, but when you find the right one, it is amazing. So for me, Mark and Sherry's Wedding is #1 with a bullet, the greatest thing ever.
One store I called up, because I'm always calling video stores, like I'll just go down Google Maps, numbers, and just call every fucking video store I can. And one store I called I think it was in Compton, or near Compton, somewhere really ghetto, that I called them up, and the guy said, yeah, I got tapes. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, you got a lot? And he's like, yeah, there's a lot. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'll come down. And so I went down there, and I go in the store, and it's like half DVDs and half cell phones. And I'm like, the tapes. I'm like, what the hell? So I go up to the guy and I'm like, hey man, I called. You said you had tapes. He's like, oh yeah, they're outside. I'm like, outside? What the fuck? Like, why are they outside? Like, I don't know. So I went out there and it was at night and there was like, literally like no light. I was like looking at these tapes with my cell phone and sure enough, like a couple hundred tapes outside in these like dinky ass shelving setup, and they stunk like shit. Like it smelled like either like a cat or dog, like or like a guy pissed on them or something. And because the alleyway was like the shittiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like I'm sure it's some bum's home, but I found some pretty good tapes, and the guy only charged me like $1 for everything I found. So I mean, on the one hand, they stink like shit. Now we're like touching them right now, you know, or ever. But at least I got them. It's like it wasn't like the rarest stuff you could ever find, but at least it was, you know, something cool. I couldn't leave without it.
My name is Earl Kess, and I've been collecting horror VHS for maybe 15 years. I don't know, since I was about 14 or something. I'm 27, so I guess someone else can do the math. I don't know. What do you want to know about my hobby here?
Okay. Well, how'd you get into collecting in the first place?
I got into collecting just because me and my buddies wanted to check out new movies. You know, we were in high school, skateboard kids, whatever, that kind of scene, and just wanted to go explore the different kind of horror. I don't know, so we just watch it every day after school and hang out, and I don't know, we just started going and buying up you know, dollar bin VHS stuff, and I started collecting, and I had probably, you know, a little shelf like this that slowly grew a little bit. And I don't know, I mean, that's how I got into it. Just I was the one that collected the films while the stuff we watched all the time, I guess. And once I got into college, I started, you know, getting a little crazier and buying a ton of stuff. You know, my dorm room kind of looked like your dorm room with a big wall of VHS. It's pretty nice. But it was just really a matter of just watching weird movies, B movies. You know, I feel like there's a lot of people that can relate to the video era and watching tons of crappy movies or tons of movies with boobs in them or blood and gore and whatever obscure weird thing you can, you know. But that was pretty much the like normal civil era of my VHS collecting when, you know, I was out hunting and grabbing tapes and, you know, everything was $1 or less or whatever the deal is. This tape is just whatever. What do you want to know about it? Chump change. I'm just kidding. That tape, well, it's not that complicated how that tape came about. Really, I've been buying tapes. When this tape popped up, I've been buying rare tapes or spending $100 now and then or more on, you know, really obscure tapes. It was at a time, or it is at a time. Hey! When my dogs hump each other. Get out of there. What was I saying?
It was at a time when you were already buying tapes that were expensive?
Yeah, it was at a time when I was just like hanging out, living on my own, and had a decent job, normal job, I wouldn't say decent, and had the kind of money to spend on it, and I was doing side work, and like I had a lot of things going where I had the disposable income from time to time. So this Quad Dead pops up, and it was like such a frenzy. It was so crazy. It was funny. I never saw such a ridiculous like nerd fest on a VHS tape besides, you know, that Quad Dead listing.
Stuff people are saying, people have been talking about like spending ridiculous amounts of money on a tape is ruining collecting or like...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Do you have anything to...
Well, I mean, I still think it's ridiculous that the Demon Queen went for 700 and something. That's a tape I saw like a bunch of times. But it's really, I think that people, I don't know if they're late to the game or something, but like sometimes shit just becomes collectible. And when it becomes collectible, then people get into a frenzy. I mean, remember those stupid fucking Beanie Baby bullshit? Like you could buy fucking every Beanie Baby for $8, or at every fucking Walmart or whatever. But then all of a sudden, the fucking pink one was worth $100, and people were fighting each other for them, and trading all that shit and spending $5,000 on a rare Beanie Baby, like that. That's like ridiculous. But that's collecting. People collect stamps. They collect other little bullshit memorabilia, and it's just if you're into that hobby, then you're willing to do it. And for me, I was always a horror movie person and a horror movie buff, so to speak, and as I got older, I put on horror movie screenings and did stuff and got involved with these people doing cool horror shit. And it's like, I've been collecting tapes all this time. So just I continue to have that passion to find rare shit, add stuff to my collection, be a little bit of a completist about, my labels and stupid shit like that. But that's collecting, you know what I mean? If you're a book collector or a record collector, you have a room of records, and you spent 10 grand on one, or whatever. So I don't think it's any different than that. I think just people are having a hard time accepting it because it's VHS, because it's cheapo plastic that no one liked and looks like shit. But in reality, it's like the first ever home media kind of thing that took off. So it's like a piece of history. It's a piece of nostalgia for people that are my age and older. And even younger, people are picking up on it. So it's a pop culture thing now. It's starting to turn into that. It's not just yard sale junk, just like records, I think it's starting to get that kind of attention. And people were probably just butthurt because they can't afford something, I'm not a rich guy. I don't make a lot of money, but I save some money off to the side, or, I don't do this or do that because I might be like, I'm going to hook up with a collector and I'm going to spend a couple $100 on 4 or 5 tapes, but they're worth it to me, It's like, whatever. Quad Dead popped up, I snagged it. Someone else would have got it. If I didn't get it, it would have sold for 5, whatever. Who is that person out there? You know what I mean? Who's the guy that's dropped out at 4? Who's the guy that dropped out at 3? You know what I mean? There's people out there that want this shit, and that's really the bottom line.
Look at him.
Okay, my name's Ed McHale. You know me, Base. Got into collecting probably in the late 70s, early 80s, and because I love obscure films, and it just grew, and here we are, so yeah.
Can you kind of talk about how collecting has changed from when you first got into collecting to how it is now and throughout the years?
It's really cool now because what you have now is you got like you guys. I mean, there's more people into it. When we first started, you had very few people, which was kind of cool too, because less people knew about it. But we wouldn't have what we have today, man. So, it was nice because you could go into places and nobody knew about the stuff. And especially as places are starting to go out of business, even though I hate saying that because I love all the old mom and pops. But, you can't deny they're going out of business. So we bought the stuff, and I bought a lot of stuff for peanuts too, So really good deals, and couldn't say no,
How has pricing changed? Because you see tapes now selling for $600.
Yeah,
What do you feel about that?
Well, I have an eBay business, so I love it. But reality, I guess as this stuff gets more obscure, it's like any other collectible. Harder to find, the price goes up. I think there's certain tapes that definitely demand certain numbers. They're really hard to find. And I think there's other tapes sometimes I'm like, how the hell did that sell for what that sold for? Or is it really worth that? Or, but it's something where, you can't deny it. If somebody wants to pay a price for something, they're going to pay it, so.
What do you feel about how many collectors there are now and the huge number of collectors?
Love it, because it goes back to what we talk about. It pumps the blood in me to keep me going because it's what I was 20 years ago, and to see a new round of that, and be able to hang out with the people that are into it now, and it's absolutely, I love it.
Describe the feeling of just walking into a store, new place, and seeing just tons of tapes.
When you're a hardcore addict like I am and you guys are, and again, the phrase adrenaline OD, because you get, it's almost like a blur, because you know, especially if you're there first and you see this stuff, I think it takes a couple seconds to really, like, no shit, you know, and then all of a sudden, okay, now you're focused. And the other thing with it is, and this was always a big part of me, I wouldn't just go crazy, because if you go ape shit, then the light goes on. So I would go up to the counter and, you know, I'd say, hey, you're selling VHS, you know, what are you looking for, tape? And, you know, they're like $5 or whatever. So you got an idea. And then, you know, I'd be like, what if I bought like 15 or 20 of them just to kind of get the, yeah, well, we could do a little better deal. So that rush, seeing stuff that you can't even believe is on the shelf, nobody else has been there. And that's Ruestas was one of the hits. In West Patterson, I was one of the first guys, actually I was the first guy in there. I don't want to get mixed up with the OD kick is just too much though, because you get focused, then you start going to the counter, before you know it, you got 200 tapes. And they're the rarest unicorns or whatever, and you're grabbing them for a good number, and you know, you're putting them in your collection. And with me, like I said initially, I wasn't going to sell the stuff. I was just going to love it, man. Here you go. What time is it? Let's chime in, almost, 5, 6, anyway, whatever. But, and then the reality too, a little bit, I had to sell to buy. So, you know, it was a combination. And then finance is getting a little tight. But the Ruesta hit, they did a couple years back with all the Maxi stuff. I posted some stuff, and it was beyond even that. It was, here's the craziest thing. I went on eBay one night and punched in VHS, obscure all this stuff, and I punched in video stores. And I looked down, and there's a video store in there, and I'm like, okay. So it said going out of business and whatnot, call this number. I call the number. I get a little bit of broken English. The light goes on, man. I'm like, my God, this could be. So set up an appointment. I'm like, the following day, I get to the store. Now, this is how insane it is. It's a video store in the back, but it's a dress shop in the front with wedding gowns. And there's a little thing, a little sign that says, videos 5 for 20. So I'm like, okay. So I go in there, I'm like, wedding gowns, and as I get around the corner, I see this video store there, dude. And there's, I think at that time, because I think Al Sauce, he's been in there a couple times, but I think originally there was like 4,000 or 5,000 tapes, untouched, nobody had been there. So I walk up to the counter and I'm like, hi, I'm Eddie. And this was Ron Ruesta, really a great guy, Spanish guy. So we talked a little bit, and I said, you know, I'm interested in buying some stuff. So he says, well, the more you buy, the better the deal. So I walk over, and on the bottom shelf, there's like 31 unicorns. Warlock Moon, Belt from Hell. Insane, right? So quiet place to kill, by the way. But he can't find the box to it. So, but anyway, get up to the counter with like those tapes, and he looks at me, and his exact words, and I remember to this day, he goes, you buy all those? And I'm like, I'll buy as many as you want to sell if we can make a deal. And he's like, you got a deal. So then it was on, dude. That first day, maybe 500 to 700 tapes. The next day I went back, probably another 1,500. Oh yeah. And he actually set up the, because there was no parking spaces out front, you had the meters like here, but he set up the meter. He was filling the meter for me. They were loading up everything. I got home, well, the first night, I think the first 50 or 70 I listed on, I put some pictures up on Sinhound and whatnot. And those guys just went apeshit over it. It was like, you know, and so those kind of hits. I mean, there were a lot of them. There were a lot of them, but when you're first and that stuff is untouched, just like if you were to go down a street here, oh my God, you know, and you're like this, you know, it's incredible. It's incredible. And what a feeling. And you know, you got to be a little bit of a show off, man. You come home and you're like, throw a couple on Facebook. I mean, I love everybody. I don't care if you just found your first tape and, you know, whatever it is, and you post it. To me, that's good, because it's showing me, man, you're there. But you know, sometimes some of that stuff that I would throw up there, and like I said, that first or that recent hit, you know, mind-boggling. From collectors, you know, and some of the heaviest collectors in the world were like, how the hell do you do that, dude? And the thing was, a lot of calls, a lot of weird stuff. Never follow the norm, you know that. You know, if you follow the norm, well, you're gonna be the norm. So a a lot of strange connections, and ask questions. People are, you know, in these places, especially even now, usually you have somebody working there, they don't want to even be there. You know, they're getting paid whatever they're getting paid. So, but you get the owner on the phone, it's a whole, he wants to dump that stuff. So, you know, and here we are, you know.
Crazy.
Yeah.
My name's Eric Frederick. I've been collecting VHS tapes since 1994. I bought all the major label studio movies when they came out on VHS, and then continued to look for cult and horror and sci-fi and weird on VHS.
Oh, well, what is it about VHS that specifically like attracts you to that format?
VHS more than DVD or Blu-ray or whatever other format. It's a lot of artwork. When we do new releases nowadays, the new releases don't have the artwork that we grew up with. They don't have the artwork that you saw when you were a kid walking through the aisles. They don't jump out at me and say, hey, buy me, you gotta have this. It's like, I guess, it's a mundane re-release of something that was really awesome when I was a kid. It doesn't, I mean, everything about VHS, you've got a smell of VHS, you've got a carton, you've got the way the tape feels, you've got like a tangible sound going on when it's playing back in your machine. When it comes to DVD, what do you get? You get jack and shit. You get a digital circle, and that's cool. I mean, to each their own. If you dig DVD over VHS, I got no problem with that. I've got buddies that have huge DVD collections, but when the DVD thing came along, I just didn't back down. I kept everything that I had. I didn't sell any VHS. When there was that big push to sell your VHS, that's what people don't want anymore. That's lame, that's old, no one cares. I just resisted that urge and, you know, kept up with it.
Nice.
As far as finds in the wild, I've done pretty well with that. My favorite story, and the story that really got me collecting and going overboard, was I went every single week to the video store, as a lot of people that collect tapes do. I went to the video store every single week. I always stopped by my copy of Bloodstalkers, even though it belonged to the video store. I was gonna have that tape, and I didn't care what it took. I would beg, I would pester them every week, asking them, please, please sell me this copy of this movie. This cover art is so amazing, I have to have this tape. Nope, not for sale. Sorry, we still rent it, whatever. I always got that story. One day, as was my usual routine, I said, can I get that copy of Bloodstalkers? What's it gonna take? How much? Whatever. And they said, well, you're in luck. Everything, all the VHS are gonna be up for sale because no one wants those anymore. DVD is happening, hooray. We're not gonna be renting VHS anymore. And I thought, you gotta be shitting me. Everything is for sale. That was one of the best times I had ever had in my life. I couldn't even believe it. I was overwhelmed. I looked at every single tape in the store and they were all available to me. I could take any of them. No one else knew about it. No one else had seen it. I had first crack at everything. I emptied my wallet. I picked up as many tapes as I could get, obviously the Bloodstalkers, and cruised out of there with a big ass smile on my face. I mean, those are the days that unfortunately are dwindling. I've been to a lot of mom and pop stores. I've been to places in the middle of nowhere. I've been, you know, one of my favorite stories happened recently. I pulled a Unicorn video off of a pile of Jerry Maguire tapes. No shit. Pile of Jerry Maguire tapes. VHS are 5 for $1. I got a Unicorn videotape for 20 cents. I mean, I could turn that around for hundreds of times of profit if I felt like it, but the way I am, there's no way it's ever leaving my grubby paws. I mean, that was a story, that was an experience I had that made me very, very happy, and especially to get it for nothing. VHS is one of the coolest things I've ever got myself into, and also one of the most, like, it's one of the greatest things I've done, but it's also one of the most nightmarish things. It sucks losing out on a tape on eBay. It sucks spending a whole paycheck on tapes. It sucks losing out on something because you were there 1 second too late. There's a lot that's bad about VHS collecting. It requires a lot. If you do this and you get a little bit of credibility from a couple cool guys, that's awesome. That's all I need, a little pat on the back now and then. Dude, that's so awesome that you found Zombie-thon. Dude, that's so great that you have a copy of Zombie on Wizard. Who else cares about this? Nobody. A handful of people that still won't let VHS go. I I have a lot of admiration for people that put in that kind of work, that dig through bins, that go to crusty flea markets, that deal with weird people in order to find a movie that they really want. I think that's great. I think that more people should do it, but the more people that do it, the tougher it gets for all the rest of us. So maybe VHS should be dead, and that would be great.
I'm Eric Spudik, and I've been collecting VHS for about 20 years now. I've sold about 40,000 VHS and DVDs in my lifetime. I'm obsessed with movies, as you can see. When I first bought out a VHS store, I think 1999, and it was by total accident. I think I was 19 years old, and it was the last day of the sale. All the VHS in the store were $1 each. And I was looking around, and so I just started grabbing movies like Deathstalker and Beyond the Call of Duty and whatever else, and just stacking them up. And I was like, well, I only got like $30, so I'll just have to come back tomorrow. And he goes, well, today's the last day. And I'm like, what are you gonna do with all these VHS tapes? Like a yard sale or something? Flea market? And he goes, I wish somebody would just buy them all. I guess we'll throw them in storage. And I said, how much would you take for everything? They're $1 each. There must be like 500 movies in here. And he goes, well, how about $300 for everything? And I was like, can I go home and get my checkbook and I'll write you a check? He goes, sure. So I bought the whole video store out. This was no DVDs, because DVDs weren't really affordable yet. They were $30 each. So the VHS tapes, I bought $300 for 1,200 VHS. That was only $0.25 each. And I wasn't on eBay yet. I was selling at yard sales, flea markets. I made like $5,000. And so at that point, I said, I'm not turning back. I'm gonna buy video stores by the whole. This has stickers on it. Nowadays, if people see stickers, they're like, I want this, and I want all the tapes that say horror, or I want all the tapes that say $1.99, or I especially want the tapes that say, please rewind. And I'm like, why? It's just their thing. That's what they collect. So back when I started selling VHS tapes, Sybil with Sally Field would go for $80. Now that movie's worth nothing. I sold Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone in the late 90s for like $3 or $5 at a yard sale. Nobody wanted it. It sat there forever, and finally some kid bought it. And I was just like, oh well, glad to get rid of that movie. My last copy sold for $660. So it's changed drastically. People now are taking out loans practically to buy VHS tapes. But it's also become a huge money maker for people like me who go into video stores, or I go to the flea markets and I know what a tape is worth without even looking it up. I've probably made, should the IRS be hearing this? No, I've paid taxes. I didn't pay taxes in the beginning. I've been selling movies since 1995. I've easily made $200,000 to $300,000 selling VHS, DVDs, Laserdisc. So it's paid my bills. So I thank all the VHS collectors for helping me pay my rent. I don't know what else I would be doing. I guess I'd be working at a video store. But it's terrific because I've made so many friends. Hell, I wouldn't even be in this documentary if it wasn't for you guys finding me on the group. I've made a lot of friends on there. I've also made, not enemies, but there's like 4 guys or 5 guys I've blocked. I won't name names, just because of the fact that there's people who say, okay, I want this and this and this, I'll pay you tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And then the next day comes, they don't pay. Then they're like, then they start negotiating. Then they go, oh, I'm in Canada, by the way. And I'm like, you didn't tell me that. Then another guy goes, can you ship me the product? And then when it gets here, I'll pay you. And I'm like, no, that's not how we do business. So there's a lot of shady people on there. I think I've blocked 6 people now. Just, but I've probably made 20 or 30 really good friends on there. There's some great guys on the group, and I've made a lot of business. Some of these movies, they sit on Amazon forever, but then you put a link on the Facebook collectors groups, and bam, somebody buys it, because everybody's tastes are different. You know, one guy might go, I want all the AIP home video movies, and another person will say, I want all the unicorns. And I'll be like, I got some unicorns. And then somebody will say, I want all the Film Fatales magazines. So there's a sale for every different person on there.
My name's Gary Cohen, and I have the dubious pleasure of being the director of Video Violence 2, and Captives. In real life, I'm the producing director of the place where we are now, which is called Plays in the Park. It's an outdoor summer theater. If I had made Video Violence 1, 2, or Captives with trying to generate a profit in mind, if I had made it with any purpose other than this is cool, this is fun, I want to see it in a video store, we want to make a movie, we can't make a porn movie, let's make a horror movie, and I love horror forever, then I might start to feel a little funny about the fact that now VHS is having a resurgence and our movies are being collected and sought after. But because I made it for the fun, I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I love that people are collecting it. I think it's just absolutely fabulous. There's no pretense. I don't think that MGM is going to call me up and say, hey, we want you to direct something. Perfectly happy in my theater life. I love that people are collecting it. As long as they understand the purpose behind it. I've been called groundbreaking and one of the pioneers. It's the most flattering thing in the world. It's absolutely wonderful.
Great.
I don't think I was in the video business long enough to start to be involved with the wacky side of things. Buying first-run films was pretty much an easy process. There was Simon and Baker, Baker and Taylor, close enough to us that we'd go on a Friday, sort of shopping cart. It was fascinating. A warehouse with 400 copies of this movie and 700 copies of that, and you picked it and you put it in a shopping cart. And the only borderline sleaze was the guys who sold the porn. There you didn't go anywhere. There they came to us. And they'd come in and they had a suitcase and they'd open it up on the counter. And I had several people who knew that they were going to come each week. And they'd open it up, and there were all the big boxes, and there was a new Laurie Smith movie, or there was a new Ginger Lynn movie, and you bought them really on your own personal tastes. If I didn't like a particular actress, I probably wouldn't buy the movie. And you'd buy about 8 of them a week, and I think they cost $10. Then I'd take them home, I'd dub them off, so I had my own copies of them, and then we'd put them out on the shelves. When it all fell apart, I probably took a third of the inventory. I took the classics. I took anything with Peter Sellers, Peter O'Toole, George C. Scott, and a bunch of horror movies. Then we had a blowout, just as everybody does. Back then, you didn't buy movies. That hadn't really caught on yet. They were just starting to say you could buy this for $29.95, like Flashdance or something like that. So I don't think we had to sell those movies for more than a weekend, and they cleanly blew out of the store.
Grant Cornelison. I've been collecting for I collected back in the early 2000s, and I kind of stopped. And then actually I started reading VHS Shit Fest, and I got back into collecting. So yeah, there's that whole connection. And yeah, so since then I've probably been reading for, when did VHS Shit Fest start?
2010.
Yeah, probably. So I've been collecting again since like 2010. And yeah, what else was I supposed to ask?
How old are you?
Oh, I'm how old am I? I'm 23. I'm fixing to turn 24, but yeah, you know. Yeah, and I don't really have a full-time job or anything. I just kind of do part-time stuff. You know, I'm supposed to be looking at y'all though.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like, yeah, like we're having a conversation.
Yeah, okay, let's have a conversation. It's like that's like when you first find something in the wild, like you find like a big vein of like awesome tapes, and it's like you don't really think, you just go into sort of adrenaline mode, and you're just like picking through everything. Like if it's like in direct sunlight or in a dirty old bombed out Kmart, it's crazy. Like it's a rush that not unless you're into it, you probably won't get it. Like normal person would see, it's a bunch of shit on the floor. It's tapes. Who gives a shit, you know? But it's like when you find something cool in the wild, like if you didn't find that, it wouldn't make you keep going and checking under every rock. You would just like, it's what that feeling you get is kind of what keeps you going when you find something really cool. It keeps your wheels going, I guess. Yeah. That's a good question. Like I'm not even sure, like if it ever gets to that point where I just have to get rid of everything, like I stop collecting, unless I had like a really good reason to. I really don't think I could, because I enjoy it too much. I like amassing tapes, though at this point it's, like I was saying, it's kind of a liability. Like, because it is, like, it's closing in on me. It's like I'm gonna be sleeping in a bed of tapes pretty soon, which I don't think that'll be very comfortable. I guess I'll find out. Yeah. Tracking. Like, I haven't had to adjust my tracking in years.
All right, my name is Jimmy Turi. I've been collecting probably for about 15 years or so.
Nice. Well, let's take it back. When did you first get into collecting, and how did it start?
Well, I first started collecting, you know, like, started collecting records, I guess, and going into record stores. You know, some record stores would always have like a wall of tapes, or thrift stores would have tapes, and you know, you'd always maybe run into something interesting. And I think, like, I could remember maybe finding a copy of Creepers and thinking, wow, this is that crazy Italian film. It's kind of cool finding this, and you know, it kind of went from there. If you could find something like this, then who knows what else you could find out there.
Nice. What you were talking about off camera, like, when did it go from just like picking up tapes here and there to like full-on collecting, and how did that begin?
Yeah, over the years, I just pick up a tape here and there if I'd see it, and it wasn't like full-on collecting until maybe like 6 to 8 months ago. A friend of mine added me to the collector group on Facebook, and I finally saw that there were so many more people out there that were doing this on such a larger level, and like, I didn't realize how many awesome tapes were out there. And it really changed changed the game, so to speak. And I started looking on a different level for tapes, you know, and it became a different reality to me. Actually, I mean, the life of a VHS hunter is perilous. Recently, I went to a yard sale, and I saw, you know, there was a Craigslist ad for this guy who had a yard sale, and it said that he had some horror posters, some 70s porn posters, and so like, I figured I'd check it out. He might have some cool records, or you know, I don't collect posters, but you know, it's always nice to see, and you know, maybe he'll have some VHS tapes. So show up right about when the yard sale started, and went and found these posters, and he had some legit posters. They were pretty good, and I don't collect posters, and the prices were a little bit more than I could pick up something just for the coolness of it. So after looking everything over, I said, you know, like, where's the VHS, man? Like, and he's like, well, I didn't think that anybody would want VHS, so I didn't bring them, but I have hundreds of them. And I said, well, I'd buy them. And he said, I'll give you my number before you leave, and maybe you could check them out. So I followed up and went over to his place, and his place was pretty impressive. Like, he had stuff everywhere. He had toys and dolls and posters on his walls. Just like, the place looked like a museum of like vintage oddity. And he finally, he was obsessed with serial killers. So it was a little bit scary, and I went out there alone. So I finally got to the tapes, which were in his bedroom, and he did have some amazing stuff. So I got about 40 or 50 tapes off of him, and threw him in the back of my car and headed back to the house. And I brought him inside and was showing every tape off to my girlfriend. And I pulled one tape out of the box, and bed bugs just fell out from the tape. And like, what the hell? So I look, and luckily the bed bugs are dead. They're like freeze-dried. I don't know, it's still scary. Bed bugs are just nothing to mess with. So I would say some of the dangers of collecting tapes: mold, bed bugs. Anyway, I went through all of the tapes, didn't find a live bed bug, so I think I'm good. But that's one of the dangers of tape collecting. I don't know how badly mold can get, but certain types of mold, I don't know if it's tape mold or not, but certain types of mold can get you pretty sick, deadly sick. But I think that's black mold, not tape mold. But yeah, that's a pretty scary story from tape hunting.
I'm Joe Clark, and I've been collecting for 13 years. Horror has been something that, just like within every one of y'all know that horror is something deeper than just a genre of a film. It's something that's in you. And so I guess it's the level of almost that is it within you. It came out in me, it came out through horror videos. The level of whatever you want to call it. Mine came out in horror videos, or it could have been in a body count. I mean, who knows what it could have been, but everybody knows who watches horror films that it goes deeper than, in my opinion, deeper than just watching the film for fun for one time and letting it go.
But he said, all right, you have to just stop. Do you think you'd actually be able to?
Yeah, you could stop. Anybody could stop if they wanted to. It's just, I wouldn't want to stop because it brings so much joy, but it really does. It brings a lot of happiness to my life, collecting a new horror film. It gets kind of stale looking at these. I like to look at it, come in here, look at them, study them, do the different things that I do in here. And if there's nothing new to look at, it can get a little stale. So yeah. Somebody could quit, but I wouldn't want to quit for the fear that, just the whole thing would get boring, So I just, piece by piece, keep adding pieces to the puzzle. Every little one's got its own little niche. If it's a Bigfoot film, it's going to go over here. If it's got the word murders in it, it might go right beside it. Like I got clown murders, baby doll murders, the video murders, the love thrill murders. If there's another murders, there's a very good chance it's going to go right there with those murders.
You think you'll ever just end up being in a house made of VHS?
I have pictured it. I really have, because nothing. The way it's set up now, and the way you can see it, that doesn't do any justice to cover art whatsoever. I would just love to have the walls lined with rows, every inch of every bit of the walls, so that I could turn them sideways and look at them like if they were a rental store. I'd love to get a rental store and call it something like Jay's Retro Horror Video and rent VCRs out and rent videotapes out. That's true retro video. If you want to come, to my store and rent out VCR tapes and horror movies, now that would be really cool in my opinion, but I don't know, so Blockbuster can't even stay in business. Why would I be able to? So
You got the rare movies, that's why you'd stay in business.
There's 2 Kathy's Curse big boxes out there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Planet Video.
And Continental.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, but it would have eventually got to me and drove me nuts. Because then I would have been like, what? I done said I had them. Now I got to get the other one.
Are there any tapes out there that you really want? Holy Grail tapes?
Yeah. What was the one we were talking about?
Demon Queen. I was gonna say you should tell that story, and how much you were willing to spend on that.
Right. Well, Demon Queen. I want Demon Queen. I was going to 600 on my very first bid, and it just disappeared off of eBay. So I feel that somebody out there is going behind the scenes and doing their own little eBaying and talking to the sellers and talking them into selling their stuff directly to them. But either way, yeah, I would bid $600 opening bid on Demon Queen. And if anybody has Demon Queen, I'm opening up for $600 right now. Contact me. You can sell it straight to Jay. But the Quad Dead Zone and the Tales from the Quad Dead Zone and the Black Devil Doll from Hell, is that what it's called? Those are the only ones left for me. I mean, everything else I've got it. And if they come up, I'll get them, and if they don't, it's not a big deal. I'm in retirement, but my eyes are constantly open for those. And I really can't say that is the last few that I have to feel like I'm complete.
What's your opinion on tapes selling for so much and how it's getting harder to actually buy stuff for cheap?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, and having so many, you're kind of glad to see the prices go up, because if you ever decided to sell out, you're going to make some decent money. If you're still collecting, and I really am, even though I'm in retirement. So many people are interested in it now. I can't even get a video off eBay. I mean, I'm like, guys, look, I'm Jay, cut me a break.
Nice. Well, if you see something that you really want, do you not buy it?
No way. If I see something, I'm on there, man, just like a great white. Every night still, I'm on eBay. Just like that, man. Just can't wait. And that's why this guy, man, I'm calling you out. Whoever you are, man, and you know who you are. You stole my Demon Queen, and that was supposed to go to me. And you went behind and pulled some stuff, and you got it. But you ain't smarter than Jay. You got it once. You got it. And I know you got a bunch of others that way, but you didn't get my last house like that. But anyway, you know who you are.
My name is John Allen Schwartz. I've been a writer, producer, director in Hollywood for 25 years. I've done everything from primetime specials to episodic television to movies for Showtime and HBO. And of all the things that I've done over all these years, the one thing that gets the most attention is when I tell people that I wrote, co-produced, and co-directed Faces of Death. They just go crazy.
What were you doing before Faces of Death?
I was working for a small family film company, And I was I had worked my way up from a runner to an assistant editor to an editor, and I was editing an animal documentary, and I was at this company for a couple of years, and the boss's son and I became very close and had done a lot of work together. And one day the Japanese came to the office and said they wanted us to do a film about death. And my partner came up with the title and I came up with the concept. And the concept is, over the past 25 years, this doctor, who's a pathologist, has been chronicling death and has a library of death that he's going to share with us. And that idea sort of was inspired by a movie called The Hellstrom Chronicle, which was about a doctor telling us how insects are going to take over our lives. And I was so nervous, I couldn't believe how graphic this documentary was. And then afterwards I read in the credits that it's all bogus, it was all phony. So I said, that's a great technique that I think would work for our movie, and so that was the inspiration for that.
Well, how did you go about, after completing that film, how did you go about getting that released?
Well, it was only supposed to be released in Japan, because it was backed by a company called Shoshaku and Technicolor here in Hollywood. And when we finished the film, I'll never forget this, we screened it at Fox for like 500 people. And at the end of the credits, there was like not a sound. And at that time, I was dating a woman whose father was an anesthesiologist. And he came up to me after the film and said it was the most comprehensive study of death he'd ever seen. So, I mean, that was a pretty good validation. But then what happened is that the film sort of found its way around the world. And then one night, I was at my typist's house, and she had the TV on, and Dan Rather came on and said, there's this film that is the worst snuff film ever made, and it's called Faces of Death, and don't go out and see it. And I literally, the papers in my hand dropped to the ground, because I figured I'd never work in Hollywood again. But ultimately, it turned out to be the best calling card of anything I could have ever imagined.
Do you have any interaction with Gorgon Video and MPI?
No, I don't really deal with them at all, because they own the film and I don't.
What was audience reaction to Faces of Death? Did you hear anyone?
I'll tell you another story. It opened on 42nd Street, and my brother went to go see it. My brother plays the doctor in Dr. Lewis Flawless in Faces of Death 4. And my brother went to this theater, and this is when 42nd Street was not antiseptic like it is now. It was really a very questionable part of the city. Anyway, so my brother's in there, and he's sitting there watching the movie, and he hears the guy behind him saying, "You're not going to believe what's next. It's the monkey scene. It's going to drive you crazy, man." And so basically the guy had seen it, liked it so much, he dragged his buddy to go see it. So I thought that's a pretty good validation of this film, you know. No, and people ask me, did you realize that you had a cult classic? And you can't make a cult classic. It's just something that hibernates and reveals itself by the people who see the movie.
How did the sequels come about?
The Japanese wanted us to do more and more, you know. But of all of them, I think Faces of Death, the original Faces of Death, is the most interesting, because we broke all kinds of rules with taking real life footage and combining it with recreated footage, so people couldn't tell the difference between fact or fiction. And that's where we were 25 years ahead of ourselves.
Why do you think Faces of Death has had the impact on people that it has?
Because it was the first really cogent study of something that we're all gonna face. We're never gonna make it off this earth. So what does that all mean, you know? And I think that's why Faces of Death continues from generation to generation, because it opens the door to a forbidden territory that we can't get our imagination to grasp.
Hi, I'm Johnny Dickey. I'm 14 years old. I'm about to turn 15 in April. When this movie comes out, it might vary, but as of now, I'm 14, and I've been collecting for about 2.5-3 years. I run a review blog called videovendetta.tumblr.com, where I review obscure movies direct from VHS. I'm a big contributor to VHScollector.com, a really cool site for people who like to collect those tapes. I contribute a lot of my scans, and yeah, I'd like to say I'm the youngest collector, but I'm not. But you know what I'm all.
Alright, first off, what do you love about VHS?
Shit. Okay, I guess I used to go to this video store. They didn't have VHS, but I used to love morbid covers. I always had this idea of horror movies that they were all jump scares, so I never liked that. But I always loved morbid covers, so I would go to this video store and go directly to the horror section. And a few years later, I found out, well, to make it brief, I found out there was a lot of movies not on DVD. So that's one reason, but then just, like, looking at the covers and, like, you know, just thinking of how much cooler it is to have, like, a big box of, something like, you know, The Reincarnate, instead of having a little DVD in a little paper sleeve. It's just a lot cooler to have you know, something physical, like big, you know, and just the artwork. It's like little slices of history, and it's just cool to, you know, collect them, show off what you got, you know, get them for good prices if that's online or thrift stores, flea markets, whatever, you know.
All right. How'd you get into collecting?
I got into collecting because a little while ago, must have been 3 years ago, I was online. I was looking for the movie Gourmet Zombie Chef from Hell that I know you VH Shitfest released on DVD and VHS. Now I have those. But I was looking, and there's this DVD bootleg site. It was on that website iOffer. And I was looking for that movie, and I found it. I didn't buy it. Luckily, I found out it was a DVD, or I didn't really know about any of that. And I saw John Carpenter's Body Bags, which I have. There was John Carpenter's Body Bags, which I saw, and I thought I liked the cover, and I liked John Carpenter. I want to find the DVD of this. Well, the DVD goes for $30 used because it's out of print. So I thought the next best thing, a VHS, which is $3, or 3 or 4, you know. And I thought, you know, why not just get the VHS? I had a player. My family had a VHS before they got a DVD player, and that was late 90s, early 2000s. So I wasn't unfamiliar with VHS. So yeah, there's that. I just bought the VHS, and then that started this whole obsession where I would go to flea markets, yard sales, thrift stores with my mom, and if I would find all these tapes, and I didn't care what they were as long as they were horror. I just picked them up, and then later I would start to root through them and pick out only the rare ones, or, you know, only ones that had good covers, stuff like that.
How did you got involved, like, how does it feel to be such a young collector? You're possibly the youngest collector there is.
I know I'm not. First of all, there's this kid, I'm not going to mention his name, so, you know, but there's a kid who's, like, a year younger than me who collects, which I'm not too worried about. Honestly, I never think of myself as I'm a young collector, look at me, I'm collecting VHS, and it's so, you know, weird for me. I never think of it that way. Whenever I trade with someone, I don't use my age as an advantage, or at least I hope I don't. I just look at myself as a collector, you know, no different, personally.
Okay, what are some of your, like, personal favorite companies and why? VHS companies?
Personal favorites are, okay, a few, just to name a few. There's Camp, just because for the 80s and 90s, they really had a sense of humor to them. All of them had that Bob Dobbs, Church of the Subgenius logo on them. They all have, like, little in-jokes, and they're campy. Which I love about them. They're just rare, but not way too rare, where, like, finding one is a holy grail. And the covers are stunning, you know. And Magnum, because their covers are cool, they're sleazy, but they are still kind of cool, you know, just, they're not complete sleaze like bootlegs. Well, some are, but, you know, they look on a shelf together is one of the best answers I can give, because you just see them, all the logos together. It's beautiful.
Okay, well, basically, like some personal favorite movies and like memories you have of getting them, stories, etc.
Body Bags, like I said, was the first one I got, and when I watched it, I loved it. I was like, why isn't this out on DVD? And then just looking around, I would find anything I could, and I would just watch whatever I could. And then it gets to the point where you can't keep up, which is still pretty cool. You never run out of movies to watch. If I'm bored on a day that, like, there's nothing to do, I'll pop in, I don't know, Phantom of the Ritz, which I haven't watched yet, or entirely. Or I'll just pop in one I'm familiar with, you know, just like, you know, one you like. Yeah, it's really just, you know. So there's Body Bags, which I ended up really liking. There's some which I think I'm like the only person who likes it. Gourmet Zombie Chef from Hell I ended up finding somewhat charming. Shot on video movies I really love. Tim Ritter flicks, the camcorder Coppola. You know, stuff like that. It's all just, it's got a, what's the word? A sense of, like, honesty to them. It's not like just some big budget flick that just got, like, shat out by Hollywood. It's, you know, you can see the filmmaking being done, which I like.
That you'd like to share about collecting or dealing with people or buying online, finding in person, etc.? Any that stick out specifically that are worth talking about?
Yeah, there was this one time on Amazon I ordered, The Mutilator from this woman, and it got sent, and the tape was, like, smashed. Like, you could not reconstruct this if you were, like, Frankenstein. It was horrific. There was tape everywhere, and the box was, like, fine, so I'm not sure if it just somehow got, like, miraculously damaged in shipping, but there was a DVD backup, and then tried to message the woman, like, a day later. Never got a response, and I don't even know what happened. I still need to see about getting a refund. That's the thing with buying online. You know, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get really good deals, like The Burning Moon for $20, and sometimes you get completely ripped off. You get, you know, you think you're buying the Zodiac Killer for $5, the big box, and you end up getting, like, some later movie.
Alright, well, probably, like, one more. What would you tell somebody, or what do you tell somebody that, like, sees you collect VHS that doesn't really know why somebody would collect, like, a dead format, basically?
What would I tell them? I wouldn't try and convince them to do it. If they honestly don't like doing it, I think the VHS collecting community is better off with someone who's just doing it to be popular. If they try and argue with me about it, I'll just say, either you're not a collector, but if they do collect something, like if it's a record collector or a book collector, I could ask the same exact thing about what they collect. Everyone likes to collect what they like to collect. I like to collect VHS. Record collectors like to collect, you know, records. There's people who pay thousands of dollars for, like, taxidermied animals. You know, you don't ask those questions why, because everyone has their own reasons. No one is going to kill anyone for a VHS. If they do, they're, you know, if they say they are, they're joking. I'd hope so.
Alright, introduce yourself.
My name is Josh Schaefer, and I publish and edit a magazine, print magazine called Lunchmeat. I also run a website called lunchmeatvhs.com, all about VHS and video nostalgia and all kind of things like that. So that's what I've been doing for a few years, and I'm a rabid VHS collector, and I love it.
How collecting has changed over the years? Like, collecting from when you first started to how it is now?
I think it's nuts. I think it's absolutely nuts. I think that it's fun to watch. I think sometimes it's crazy to watch. It's like, you know, it's insane to me. I mean, seeing it, and it's changed so quickly. I think over the past 5 years, it's changed radically. I think, you know, seeing tapes go for like $600, $700, people putting tapes up on there. Like, I saw Mama's Home up on for $700 for original tape. I mean, you can buy that in that new Camp Motion Pictures The Basement. Like, that's on there under captive. So, I mean, you can watch the movie, but I mean, these are collectibles now. VHS tapes are more than just like a form of media. It's now, it's media history. So I mean, but I still say, and I can like to go on record saying that it's best to do what I do and what you guys do, which is dig. You go out and you look for tapes, ask your friends what's in their basement, go to flea markets, make friends with old people, see if they have VHS tapes, because they still have them, you know, and people still will let them go for 50 cents rather than $500. I love my video store. Video Vision, rest in peace, Bridgeton, New Jersey. But it was great, and you know, and the great thing about it, I got to go, when they were closing down, I got to go and buy a bunch of tapes from them. So now a lot of the tapes in my, not a lot, but a deal of my tapes in my collection are from that video store, and I recognize I'm going to pick them up, and you know, I get a little time travel there, and it's great. Especially because I can put them in. I don't know if there's a good chance it was the one I was renting when I was a kid. You can't say for sure, but I like to imagine that it was. So much stuff. I mean, starting the magazine has opened a lot of doors for me, just doing stuff like this. Stuff I never even imagined. The reason I started Lunch Meat is to share and share alike, as they say, to create something that was tangible, like the VHS tape. We have a blog now, but that happened I only did it about a year ago. I was kind of hesitant because I'm like, I don't know, kind of a Luddite, I guess. But no, yeah, I mean, lots of special things have happened. I made a lot of cool friends. I have, you know, got a lot more tapes. I've gotten chances to trade with people. I've gotten opportunities with like doing like interviews like this, being interviewed in magazines, and you know, being able to publish a magazine. It's all because of VHS. I mean, if it didn't exist, that wouldn't exist. Yeah, but doing the Lunch Meat VHS Rewind Theater, which is an online TV show where I show shot on video flips on the Camp Motion Picture label. That's really cool. I got to go and be kind of a horror host for a little bit, and I thought that was really cool. You know, I mean, I'm just, you know, I just find myself to be like a, not like a personality or anything, just like a guy that loves that kind of thing, and they stuck me in front. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that would like rise up to a challenge, so I mean, it was a lot of fun. You know, I went to New York for one day, started at 5:30 in the morning, and like got on planes, trains, and automobiles, and like did tons of stuff, and did a quick shoot for about 5.5 hours, maybe 5 hours, and we banged it out, and hopefully it turns out well. I mean, they're editing it right now, and you know, it was a great opportunity. It's something that I can say I've done, and it's all because I was sitting around and wanted to start a print scene about VHS.
All right, my name is Keith Crocker. I'm an independent filmmaker. I also run Cinephere Video, which is a collectors only site. Prior to that, it was a mail order video, now a DVD-R business. I've been collecting videotapes since the late 1980s. It was something I did not intend to do. It was something that sort of fell into my lap. I was a big horror fan. I was a super huge fan of horror films on video cassette, because you have to understand, I'm old enough, I'm 46. In order to get to see certain horror movies and to get to see them uncut, you had to wait for a re-release to the theater. Around 1975, you had things like WHT, which was Homeka Home Theater, which I believe ran out of Jersey. And you had Cablevision starting to show up, all right? I live here on Long Island. The part of Long Island that I lived on, we didn't have Cablevision. It was only, for a number of years, it was only in Hicksville. Strictly in Hicksville. That's where it, which is a town, not something I'm poking fun at. It's a town that had Cablevision. When video started to show up, we started to see video stores spring up here on the island around 1978. It was one of the first stores was a chain. It was, I believe, Video Shack, and they came to Westbury, and then there were the mom and pop stores. We had a place called Pictures and Video, which started in the Green Acres Mall. Green Acres Mall was in Valley Stream, very close to me. I used to go to these video stores long before I could ever afford a video machine, and I would just stare at the tapes and drool, because the logic was, I believed that every one of those tapes were going to be uncut. And that, wow, you could put on a movie whenever you want to watch a movie. This is the most exciting thing that could ever happen. You didn't have to wait for a re-release. You didn't have to, you know, anything like that. So it was very, very exciting. And I used to go and drool. My first, I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself.
No, just keep going.
My first VCR I bought in 1983. I had a summer job. was actually prior to my going, it was about 2 years prior to college because I started college in '84. And I bought a Betamax because that was what was affordable, okay? So I bought a Betamax and I started renting like crazy. And at the time, the stores would have a Beta section and a VHX section. And I used to go to this place called Pictures and Video. Like I said, it was in Green Acres. It was a mom and pop store, and I used to rent. And I mean, I was a vapid renter. I was going there like crazy, and they really wanted you to join a club. Now, I never had the money to join the clubs. It was hundreds of dollars. So, you know, we'd leave an imprint of a credit card, and, you know, you paid, I don't remember how much it was. I think it was like, I remember paying like, it was like $5 per rental, okay? $5 or $6 per rental, which wasn't bad. It had probably come down in the number of years since they opened. They were one of the smarter video stores. They actually went out of business in 1985, and their reason for going out of business was because Royal Video was coming into the Green Acres Mall. And that was it. They knew it was time to get out of it. Also, sell-through video had begun. And that was the beginning of the end. So the beginning of the end for video actually begins as early as 1985. Though a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah. I swear to you, movie fans never felt more gifted. It was like a great time to be alive. Like the excitement, it still runs through me that it was such a big deal to see. It's all changed. Now you download this crap. You don't even pay for it. It's gotten so crazy. But back then it was such a big deal because it was scarce. And you couldn't really, and you were so thankful whenever a store ordered something weird when you had stores. But I was lucky because I was surrounded by air. I was very close to Queens. So I was growing up in the 5 towns very close to Queens. So you can imagine each store carried something crazy in it. Sometimes these people would give you a look like you were a madman when you went up there to rent this stuff. Some were very helpful. Some wanted you to rent everything. Others, you know, it's funny, you kind of got to laugh. They had a porn section, they had a horror section. You're bringing this stuff up, but they're looking at you like you have 3 heads, like there's something wrong with you. You're coming up with an army of porn in one hand, an army of horror in the other, and they think you're a nut. Wow, this guy's crazy. What the hell? What is all this stuff? You know? So usually you would get, sometimes you would get attitudes from people. Sometimes people would be like, they didn't know how to handle you. They didn't know what you would do. They would check you out, but you could always see them kind of looking at you through the corner of your eye. You know, and you always wondered, what did they say about you when you walked out? Oh, is that freak again, you know? The ability to walk into a store and pick out these movies that I wanted. Movies like this. Where else are you going to see stuff like this? Go to a video store. You could rent this stuff. You could watch it. Most of the time it was uncut. Sometimes they put out cut prints. They didn't know better. They just grabbed whatever was around. But the ability to go into a video store, pick this stuff up and watch it whatever time I want, well, it broke open my mind. It was an education because I was getting to see movies I wouldn't have seen. And that really is what helped pique my interest to make movies, to make something like The Bloody Ape. You know what I mean? The Bloody Ape really comes out of a movie like Phantom of the Rue Morgue, which was shot in 3D and never came on videotape until the early 90s. In order to see Phantom of the Rue Morgue in the late 80s, I remember somebody had to have a bootleg of it recorded off of television. So, but it goes to show you, movies like that influenced what I would end up making later on. And the experience of having that at my fingertips was amazing. To just be able to go to a machine, push it into that machine, and sit there and watch it. And you know, we weren't fuss budgets. We weren't one of these guys that gets on our website now and complains about a DVD not being perfect. We didn't give a fuck if this stuff wasn't perfect. We cared that it was just there and we could see it. And we didn't care if it looked like crap, if it was all beat up. It was more exciting. It was more organic. So to us, it was just the greatest experience in the world. Like I said, I'm so happy I lived through that and have something to tell. You know, everybody should have a story to tell. Everybody should have something to tell. This is our story. For a film fan, this is where I was. I spent my life in video stores.
Greetings from Tromaville. My name is Lloyd Kaufman. I'm the president of Troma Entertainment, and with Michael Herz, we have run the longest running independent movie studio, 40 years of traumatic movies such as The Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, Surf Nazis Must Die, A Nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell, Squeeze Play, Waitress, Stuck on You, The First Turn On, Bloodsucking Freaks. I could go on, and I can go on, but I'm already being boring.
A difference between the movies that you acquired and went to release versus the movies that you directed yourself?
The mom and pop video stores, which were really the main, they were like bookstores. You'd go in, you'd browse, you'd you'd find an interesting title. It might be Blood-Sucking Freaks, or it might be the Queen Elizabeth story. But there was a variety, and the mom and pop owners of the stores were, for the most part, genuine movie fans, and they loved what they were doing. But unfortunately, they could not compete with the blockbusters and the chains who had national advertising and had access to the giant mega conglomerate powerhouse. And they one by one went out of business. New York right now, we're in no video stores except for Forbidden Planet, at least none that I know of. In the entire New York area, there is one video store that has Troma movies.
Have any negative experiences with releasing movies? Did like any companies ever try and like not pay you or anything like that?
In the video cassette in the height of the video cassette age, Vestron was very good at promoting. They did in-store. They didn't care whether your movie was an independent film or whether it was a big star vehicle. They would see the value to the film and promote it in the appropriate way. With The Toxic Avenger, even though a film, not that Toxic Avenger is a horror film, but it's got gore and sex and comedy all mixed together. The Toxic Avenger was featured in video stores with giant life-size cutouts with Toxie holding a mop, and they were in video stores all over the country. And so I think for the most part our experiences were pretty good. Vestron always honored their contracts. Media Home Entertainment honored their contracts. And I think the problem was more that the major studios began to move in and start to create a cartel environment on the retail side, and Vestron and Media Home Entertainment could not compete with the likes of Walt Disney and Rupert Murdoch and the 2 or 3 other giant devil-worshipping international media conglomerates.
Did you ever work with Charles Band back in the day?
I've not had the privilege of working with Charles Band, but
You spent some time in the pokey with him, though.
yes.
No, sorry. Forget about that.
Certainly one of the visionaries in the video world was indeed Charles Band, who he and his father pretty much, if I remember correctly, they invented the video cassette, and I think that they were quite successful. But I have not had the privilege of working with them. I haven't had the privilege of working with Menachem Golan or Harvey Weinstein or any others of the wonderful world of movies.
My name is Louis Justin, and I run a DVD distribution company called Massacre Video that specializes in cult, horror, exploitation, shot on video, and just grossness. I have a role in the VHS comeback, I guess, because of my company, Massacre Video. A lot of people see me as a VHS label. I'm not. I'm a DVD label. I just release a limited amount of VHS because, I mean, I love the format. It's a very DIY process for me, and if you know anything about my company, it's very DIY. I've always had that mentality my whole life. That's just how I've always been. Like, I would not be happy if I just released a standard DVD. Like, that would bore the shit out of me, and there would be no point in me doing it, because I like having gaudy shit. I like over-the-top stuff where people are just like, why did you do this? It's stupid. And like these, as you can see behind me, these monstrosity that takes up a lot of my room is a VHS duplicator. I actually purchased this after I did my first VHS, a 555. The company, they were actually moving locations, and I was the only person that has used it in like 15 years. So they were just gonna scrap them all, and I'm like, I'll buy a rack of them, because they can actually do like 600 tapes at once, because they have a buttload of these. But the racks are actually, it's I think 23 tapes, and it has this thing, it's a power, it's a connector, like the video goes into this, and it pretty much powers all of these, and there's this guy right here, which is the controller, so it's got record, rewind, eject, stop, and fast forward. So when the video source is plugged in there, it will dupe all the tapes, yeah. It's boring, but it's really cool in a way. So, I mean, I dupe all the tapes myself, I apply all the labels, I don't print the artwork, I actually have a print shop, so it doesn't look like an inkjet piece of shit. I even go as far as obviously like shrink wrapping the tapes. So I mean, it's fun.
Well, I guess let's.
Ed McHale.
I mean, yeah, we'll definitely do that. Hard
All right.
That's hilarious. Let's talk about Massacre Video. I mean, how did it start, and kind of talk about the importance that 555 has had on you.
Oh, okay. Well, Massacre Video, I started in 2008, right when I got out of high school. I'm only 22. I'm obviously a younger collector, but I like to say, you know, what age doesn't matter. There's collectors who are 40, and there's collectors that are 16 that both share love for the format. So I mean, whatever. Massacre Video, a site called Exploited Cinema. I was always a pretty big avid like purchaser from there, buying DVDs and like really hard to find films. And I've always been friends with the guy that ran it, Tony. He's an awesome guy. That shut down, and I hate school. I've always hated school. I don't do poor in school. I graduated actually with a pretty high GPA, but I hate school. I hate formal. I just don't know why. It makes me anxious. Makes me want to have panic attacks. I just don't like it. I'm aware I'm gonna have to go someday, so I live decently. But for right now, I was like, ugh. I was trying to look a way to make money and like maybe make it so I don't have to go to school. So I started a store, an online store, and I specialized in like just weird shit. And like I said, I'm always weird. I've always been weird with like the DIY stuff and like collectors only stuff, which a lot of people hate, but whatever. Go fuck you, don't buy it then. Ignore it. But I would like go to conventions and I'd get like, for instance, with Synapse Films, they Color One Eye, or Thriller, Cool Picture. And Christina Lindbergh was at a convention. She was charging like $20 to autograph DVDs. I had her sign like 20 of them or something, and I put them on my site. Only have 20 signed, and I like boost the price $20 from what it normally would be. Sold out of them like immediately, because people like stuff like that. So I was kind of the guy to go to for that. I made some bad life decisions, as in dating just a wretched idiot. Moved out of my parents' house with her, and Massacre Video slowly kind of dwindled down a little. I mean, I had to pay big boy bills, I had to do all this stuff, so like I was working 60 hours a week, so I mean it just kind of, I shut down the store. And believe it or not, I know I'm a notorious slow shipper, but back then, people would get stuff like, I would ship same day usually. It was crazy, so that's why it's weird now, but I'm still stuck in like the shit stage of my life. But yeah, after that, but when Massacre Video started like dwindling down, always in the back of my mind, I wanted to buy 555. I am obsessed with that movie. I don't know why. It's, even before I released 555, even before I owned the rights to it, people know me as like some kid that awkwardly liked that movie. I saw it at this video store called Thomas Video, which is, it's not that far from my house. And I rented there when I was younger, and they exposed me to the world of just weirdness. This, just every other movie you'd want, they have it. VHS, DVD. They don't have betas anymore, but they used to. They had a few, but not, I guess, shouldn't mention beta. But whatever. He pretty much 555, and I was always kind of like looking for the rights on and off. Never really like dedicated to it. But when I was about to move out, I started like diligently looking for the rights to 555. I had like a little bit of startup cash, because like, the idea of distribution was just always there. And I simply did not have time for the store anymore. So after like a while of looking, I tracked down the writer, Roy Cause, and we worked out a weird deal, which it's been written about many times, so I'm sure you know. I bought him a boat motor. It's weird. But yeah, I ended up getting 555. So that was obviously the first thing. And it took me a few years to release it. I ended up releasing 555 when I was 21. No, I was 20 or 21. I don't remember. It's a year ago. So I don't remember. I'm stupid. But I released that some way. But it took me like 2 years to release it, which was cool. It made me hate every single person ever. Because I was like getting threats about like it not being out. I'm like 19 and I work at a grocery store. I mean, like, okay, what do you want me to do? So, but after eventually I did get it out, and it was actually a very successful release. I'm happy with it, and yeah, I guess that was about it. It was funny because when I was around, I think the first time I saw Cannibal Holocaust, my mother was telling my father, "Oh, don't worry, this is only a phase." Like, 'cause I was getting like heavy into the gore stuff, like Love and August Underground, like Cannibal Holocaust, Green Elephant, just gross shit. Like the kids, like Psycho the Snuffers, like stuff kids should not be watching. Like I was like loving it and just like, woo, fucking a dead corpse, yeah, this is cool shit. and was, like, I was told it was a phase, but obviously I'm 22 now, and it's still, woo, fucking dead corpses, yeah, just super cool. So I mean, it's not super cool to fuck a dead corpse, obviously, but watching it, I guess, is pretty cool. It's obviously not a phase, but my friends' family, my family still thinks I'm a loser and I don't make any money and I sit home all day and watch shitty movies that no one cares about. Friends at school. This has nothing to do with the comment I just made about having sex with dead bodies. Nothing made about it, but for some reason, I had a porn called Repenetrator, and Joanne Angel is just gorgeous, and I showed some girl it, because I don't know, she came over, I'm like, let's watch Repenetrator, because that's how I flirt with girls, I guess. And so I got known as the guy that wants to have sex with zombies, which I don't even like zombies, but that was high school, it was fun. So yeah, the friends never really understood. My friends are now starting to get it. I mean, after I'm in the New York Times for this hobby they've been making fun at for me for years, they're kind of like, oh, huh, I have a shitty minimum wage job. Huh, oh, well, I feel like a dick now. The future of VHS collection is going to burn out and die. It's like the German hardbox craze. There were people who were absolutely, like, loco for those things, like thinking they're the coolest thing ever. And, like, yes, there are still collectors of them, but as a majority, most people don't collect them anymore because it's, I don't want to say it's yeah, I do, it's a trend. There's going to be people who get super into tapes, like really fast and a massive collection, and then they're gonna be like, next thing and sell them all. Like it's not gonna be as big as it is at this current moment. I don't think it's gonna start to continue to grow. Like there's gotta be people who are obviously gotta be brought into it, but it's easy to tell who's in it for the long run and who's not. So, it's more than half of the fun, I think, buying stuff in person and just digging and cutting yourself open, because I have a really, like I did it today, I have a little blood under my cuticle. Always cut myself in VHS cases. I don't know why. Like being in a video store, it doesn't have a bathroom, you really gotta pee. So you're like sitting there like looking at tapes, like holding yourself, like doing this weird dance, and everyone looks at you like you're a jackass. Or being at a flea market and thinking other people are there to buy VHS like that you want, when they're realistically not. They're looking for like Men in Black and the movies that they like that they're too cheap to buy the DVD for. Like I remember I was at like a flea market once, and I saw this box, and it had there was like some fat guy and his fat wife and his fat kids, just a big just circle of fat looking at the tapes, and like looking through like just the normal ones, and I saw a box of like with like Scream Baby Scream and just like some Regal big boxes and some other cool stuff, and I was just like looking, giving him a fucking death stare, like trying to like grab them, like holding them, like the person at the flea market is like this 90-year-old woman who later I found out is in prison. I'll explain that in a moment. It's very interesting. Was like, she saw I was like a stealer. She's like, I'll put those behind my counter, and I was just like getting defensive over all these other people looking at the VHS. But I think that's fun and it's just weird. But the 9-year-old woman that is in jail.
All right, I'm Matt Desiderio. I'm a collector of VHS, and I do a lot of different things. Like I run a website called Horror Boobs that pretty much focuses on naked women in movies and just shows pictures of them. We don't really put any information. It's just more about the visual. But we also run live events, etc., and host movies. I also manage I've managed video stores over the years, but I also manage a comic book store in the city right now called Forbidden Planet. I'm a buyer for the store.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell a crazy story about one time I was working in a video store, and a pregnant woman and a man comes into the store, and they ask for adult movies. And I said, okay, adult movies, they're in the back. Go ahead, check them out. It's right back there. And they say, they go back there, they come back out, and then they say, hey, can you help us show us what's good back there? And I'm like, well, I mean, really, it's a matter of opinion. I mean, porno is a personal kind of taste thing. It's not like I can't tell you it's good. And, I was just like, there's all types of stuff. They're like, oh, no, you know what's back there. You know what's back there. You know it's good. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I go back there. And I was like, start looking around. They're looking around and they're like, do you have any animal movies? And I was like, no, we don't have stuff like that. That's illegal. We don't sell animal movies. She's like, no, I've seen that before. It's okay. And I'm like, this is really weird now. But it's New York City and weird stuff happens all the time, But animal movie, pregnant woman, I guess this dude, whatever. And then they like, show me. I was like, all right, well, this company's a new company and they're more professional. They're hardcore. And here's a company that's a softcore company, because you work in the business and that, and then after a while, different things. This is this type of thing, and this is this type of thing. And as I point to a different one, she would grab it, and I'd be like, well, not that specific one. I'm saying, this is what this company does. I'm not giving you a review of this particular movie. And she's like, all right, fine. Okay, and then they pull 3 movies. And then they go, all right, we want to go in the booth. And then, at that point, I realized that this is not a pregnant woman and her husband trying to get their jollies by watching a porno movie. This is a pregnant prostitute and a John who want to do it in my store. And that's weird for me and illegal. There's so many laws against that. It's just like, because video stores have jack-off booths, what they call them. These booths in the city. I mean, video stores in general, porno stores in the city are crazy. They have these... some of them have live girls who you can still see, and there's still a video spot that I go to that has live girls into it, which is cool. You can go get VHS tapes, and there's live girls there, and they say, hey, but that's a whole nother story. But, there's jerk-off booths, and she wanted to do this dude in my booth, and that wasn't happening. And I told her, I was like, tried to be very nice about it. I said, well, you can't do that in my store. I'm sorry, man. This is I have this job to put me through college. That's if you do that, I'll get in a lot of trouble. And I could get in a lot of trouble. It's illegal. If the cops come in here, how do I know you're not a cop? And just tried to really give the whole, spiel. And as I'm trying to get out of this situation, this woman is saying, is caressing her boobs in a way to make her nipples hard, as a way to entice me into letting her have sex with her John in my video store in this jerk-off booth, which wasn't going to happen. And she's like, how much does it cost to use a jerk-off booth? I was like, it doesn't matter. It's not important how much it costs because it's not going to happen. They're like, oh, no, I'll give you $10. I was like, this is my job. I'm not going to... $10 means nothing to me. She's like, oh, no, I'll pay for the booth. I'll pay for him, and I'll pay for me, and I'll pay extra $10. And I was like, get it through your head, lady. It is not going to happen. I've been nice as possible. And she's like, okay, what if I suck your dick right now? And I unzip my pants. I'm just kidding, no. But I said, I lost my mind. Well, no, she said, what if I suck your dick right now? And then the John that she brought in just goes, I'm out of here. And he turns around and leaves the store. And I'm just... Oh, fuck. You're it. Would that have been cool?
What fell?
You okay? Yeah. Wait a second.
Keep where you're at. Is this camera still recording?
Yeah, cut that.
Cut it? Or do you want to just keep talking?
All right. So then this guy just totally freaks out. He's like, "I'm out of there." Of course, she's giving out blowjobs for free. He's gonna not be happy about that. He was a paying customer, and now she's to get the money to. I mean, who would fuck this woman in the first place? I want to know. This pregnant, disgusting, Gungan-looking prostitute. It was gross. It was, I mean, with the nipples. And he leaves. She chases after him. I was like, thank God that's over. All right. Back to work at my porno store / normal video store. Thank you, Giuliani. But the best part is she comes back and she starts coming she comes back and she's like, I'm really hard-headed. I'll never forget it. She used the word hard-headed like 50 times. I'm very hard-headed, as she caresses her boobs again to entice me. And I'll make you feel good. She said things like that. It was just very uncomfortable for me to deal with. As you know, I mean, at that point, I worked at the video store for a couple of years. You know, I was there for 5-6 years maybe. I may have been 20 at that point, at the most, and that was still, it was wild, man. It was wild to have to deal with that. And then, eventually, my friend from upstairs, who also lived in the building, came down and walked in, and she freaked out that somebody else came in, and she left. And it was actually the owner of the building's son, who lives upstairs, Dan, who was a complete nut job. And I would party with. Sometimes I would just close the store and go upstairs and, party with this dude and then come back. It's stuff like that was kind of fun. Working in a video store, you can kind of pull all types of crazy stuff. You could close the store. You could stay up all night and have people over and watch movies and party and show off the weird porno section. It's a cool job to have if you're that old. But video stores didn't start out like that. Video stores back in the day when I was a kid and went to them, it was an old guy behind the counter who ran the store. And, then it switched over and young people worked. There's a lot of people I know my age that have very similar experiences that worked in video / porno stores and stuff like that who are obsessed with film. It's kind of a thing that, a rite of passage, I think, to work in a video store. As a collector, it adds a certain amount of credibility to be on the other side of the counter at some point.
All right, I'm Matt Moore. I'm the creator and writer of the Video Invasion for Horror Hound magazine. I have been collecting VHS tapes since 1989, so I have a couple. First tape I ever bought was Nightbreed on Media. I remember I saw that movie. It was in a theater in Richmond. It was called the Cinema Draft House. And it was like, my dad, was all cool about that stuff. He wanted to take me, my dad and my mom actually, they wanted to, expose me to shit. And my dad took me to see Nightbreed in the theater. And I was young, and scared the unholy shit out of me. And no movie had touched me that bad, except Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead, I didn't sleep. I lived on a farm, in the farmhouse. So I drove home, came out of the car, and heard sticks cracking. I didn't sleep for like 3 weeks. But with Nightbreed, I really wanted that tape, and a friend of mine was like, it's coming to video. I was like, really? How much is it? And it was like $60. And I cut more grass that summer than I think I've cut in my life. But I got that damn tape at the end of the summer, and the dude was so happy, he gave me the advertising standee for Nightbreed that has like the little guide to the breed. He was like, yeah, you come in here, because I put a down payment, I think it was like $5, and I paid on it like every week. But yeah, Nightbreed was the first tape I ever bought. Yeah, I mean, how I came up with articles, with the Video Invasion in general with Horror Hound is I had talked with the editors, Nathan Hanneman and Aaron Crowell, for years about just horror in general, and they always knew I was a video nut. And every time we would do like a retrospective, they'd give me a phone call, hey man, you got it on tape? And I always had it. So we bounced the idea back and forth for a while of just doing kind of like a one-off, just kind of a chronicle of video art, a chronicle of video tapes. But it never really amassed anything. And finally we sat down and I pitched an idea of doing a chronicle of companies. because it was kind of unfair, if you have 3 pages to work with to try to chronicle all these tapes, because there's thousands of them out there. And so we shot in the dark, and Vestron, I actually did a report in high school on Vestron Video, where I had contacted a couple people that had worked there. I had talked to Charles Band, and got a lot of the inside information, stuff like that. And I said, let's put in an article, and I'll just put as many boxes as I have at my fingertips right now and see where it goes. And when we did that article, we were really, really hesitant. We went into our Pittsburgh show. It was on the table, and we, I'm always like a self-conscious, I guess. I'm like, all right, did it suck? Did this guy like it? And a lot of people started, reacting like, this is awesome, no one ever did this before. And so we started listening more, and then we started getting a lot of emails asking, are we gonna do any more? Is this just a one-off? And I was, of course, I'm the guy that wrote it. I'm like, yeah, let's do more. And finally, we decided to start it as a whole series. And I've done Wizard Video, Continental, Magnum, a ton of them, and it's so cool because our readership went up, our subscription count went up. We get several emails all the time asking about the video stuff and why we do more. I know there's a huge request right now for us to do like a book that kind of chronicles all the video invasion articles, which we're working on. I don't want to release it if it's kind of just the articles reprinted. I'm going to do like, I guess, all the articles version 2.0, find all the tapes I didn't have, all the boxes I didn't have, and stuff like that, and try to make it as complete as possible. But the overall, reaction to the articles has been, overwhelming. I mean, I was on tour back in June, and it was kind of funny. We got to a club, and the guy was like, it's the Video Invasion Guys band. Had no idea our band name, nothing like that. It was the Video Invasion Guy. So I mean, it's kind of cool. It's impacted people. I know some people come up to me at shows, and they're like, I never even thought that, when I was a kid, I saw the stuff and I remember it, but I never cared again. And then I saw it in the magazine, and I wanted to go get it. And it's inspiring, that you can do something as what I thought at the time was kind of mundane and just kind of something to do and cool to me, that everyone just kind of latched onto it. And it's, I think I turned the boat just a little bit. But the price-wise, yeah, that's still funny to me. I know I did Wizard Video. It was one of the first detailed ones I did. And I mean, I got a straight up, next time I see you at a show, I'm going to kick your ass email. And it was some guy that I think he wanted, I want to say it was Oasis of the Zombies. He had a deal with a guy where it was sealed or something. And he went on in this email on and on about he had been negotiating for a while, and then all of a sudden I came out and said, it's a pretty hard to find tape, so you might want to hold on to it, and if you do sell it, don't let it go cheap. He was like, yeah, the guy tripled his price. And at the end of the email was like, go fuck yourself, and it's pretty cool.
All right, introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. All right. My name's Matt Carr, aka Putrid. That's my, little sign moniker name, because I'm a nerd and fucking grew up, Pusshead, Ghastly. Kind of had to come up with a little alter ego, obviously. Yeah, I'm an illustrator for a lot of metal bands, mostly death metal stuff. I mean, that's like my, super passion there. And then, yeah, obviously a goddamn gigantic horror nerd. That was my first, passion since I was like a young little gelfling. And yeah, what else? Collect comics, big comic nerd, obviously. Just a plethora of this fucking garbage. I mean, if you are looking at this stuff, you get the idea. One of my favorite fucking stories of sheer bliss. And this was fucking, the best part about this is this was like a couple of years ago. I was at Reckless Records, which is like, it's just record store. People would pawn off some shit there. Like, I got some cool titles there, from time to time, but nothing big. And I, was hanging out with this chick at the time, and her back was, to the VHS wall. I was like, oh, let's just stop in here and see if they have anything. Maybe pick up a CD or two. Very few gems, research, come through there. And, oh, dude, this is fucking rad. She's talking, and, my eyes gloss over. I'm like, ugh. And, and I see Mad Ron's Previews from Hell spine right fucking behind her. And not sound like I love women to death, not sound like a dick, but I was just like, Geesh! And then, if you're a fucking VHS collector, you see the spine, man, you never know what you're gonna get on the cover, man. You never know what you're getting on the cover. It could be so washed out that I'll fucking just go limp dick immediately, man. And I just busted that thing out, dude. Mint condition copy. It is right behind this young gentleman right here to this day. And, oh man, come on, let me get in there, dude. Where is it? Mad Ron's. What's the alphabet? L-M-N-O-P. Maybe it's behind you, or here. Oh, come on. There it is. Come here, baby. Come here, little fella. And here it is. And okay, so I saw the spine and because I'd read about this for forever, and I am a sucker for trailer compilations. And this one I've always read was like the best one. And then, pull that thing out and just, I get greeted with that. And obviously being a comic goon, come on, dude, that's so sick. The fucking logo, everything. So I was just like, and I bailed from that. I was like, you're awesome, Stephanie, but I'm over it. I just gotta go home right now. Like, this is just too fucking great, man. Like, look at that, dude. Everything on that shit is just fucking perfect. Yeah, so I fucking spent fucking time on this like I would Pamela Anderson, man. I'd be like, oh God, let me check you out. Damn, babe, you're sick. So, yeah, this was one of my favorite scores. I mean, there's a fucking bunch, but that was kind of one of my favorites, actually. Yeah, sick, right? Anyway.
Blockbuster.
Fuck those Christian parasitic cocksucking motherfuckers. Go to hell. I'd line those fuckers up. Dish. Systematically eliminate them, dude. What more needs to be said about that fucking shithole of a company, man? I mean, I own a couple of they had some, no, fuck Blockbuster, man. There's just, oh God, I hate Blockbuster. Done. Fucking done. Nothing else to say. Fuck them, dude. Every time I fucking drive by one of their stores closes, I rejoice. Netflix, thank you, Netflix. Like, fucking eliminate them, man. Those pieces of shit need to not exist in this world, in my opinion. Done. I mean, obviously, I love blood and boobs. Elvira, I fucking, she's like my fucking queen. I love Elvira to death. So obviously, I tried to get as many of those as possible. I still need the human duplicators. Fuck. Get me human duplicators, somebody. I'll suck your dick. But yeah, that's good. Wizard, of course. Obviously, fucking Midnight, still lacking on there. Gorga Girls, another dick I'll suck. Oh man, cut that out. Actually, don't cut that out. That's fine. What'd that Demon Queen go for? Like $15,000? It was like something retarded. Oh my God. But God, I want that movie so, because I'm a big Nightmare City fan. I love Nightmare City, dude. So I've always wanted that, man. That fucking bitch's face all torn up, like, yeah. That's awesome. But I'll never fucking have the funds for that, man. I gotta wait till all these fucking posers die off and, and then, sell their shit because their fucking, fucking girlfriend is intolerant. So that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm waiting for. Contact me. No dick sucking.
My name is Paul Malik. I've been putting a VHS fanzine out for 10 years now, Dormar's Horror Review. I just got into horror movies in high school. Pretty much like me and my best friend all we did in high school was play in a band and then just watch horror movies, and just started collecting them basically at the right time, where back in the day you could just find tons of movies just in pawn shops and mom and pop video store rental places. And I just kept doing VHS because I was like, I'm finding out of print stuff and it's cheap, so I can get more for my buck, because I was really into it for the films. So I just kept going, and then till I'm at the point now where I have, I think, 2,733 films. And so yeah, it's part of me. I've always been into collecting stuff, And I love the box covers of these things. I'm just like, plus whenever I pop it in, it'd be like a whole new experience. I was like, oh my God, this movie gonna be awesome. And I think the time I realized I was like amassing a library was when I first got my own place, like after my friend and I were renting an apartment together. Like when I actually got my own place and it's upstairs. It was an actual different place than this one. And so it became like the horror attic. And when I hit 1,000 movies, I call it like the Dormar's 1,000th ritual, and invited all these people, and everyone fucking showed up, and I couldn't believe it, and it was awesome. And people were like, dude, you gotta do this. And so like every 250, I have a new like huge movie party, and we watch the movie that is the number, and then we have to watch a shot on video movie, and then the next one is whatever anyone ends up picking from the vault. So how do I feel about people releasing new and old movies on VHS now? I don't know. It's kind of weird. I like it. The only thing I don't like about it is some of these companies, which like they're like, we're bringing back VHS. We printed 100, and 75 sold out when we had the showing. It's like, no, you made it a collector's item now. You didn't bring back VHS. But I do like it coming back on VHS, especially older movies, because that's where they belong. That's their format. To me, it's the only way to see a movie that you can't see in an old grindhouse or the drive-in is to see it on VHS. Especially because nowadays, like when they're putting them out on Blu-ray, they actually clean up the film print to a nicer quality than it actually was when it first hit like 42nd Street, and that's fucking stupid. So I'm talking about where we are and where I got this idea to have an attic. We're in my horror attic, Dormarth's horror attic. I guess when I was in the house before this, it also had an attic, and it like just clicked to me like, oh, back then I had like 500 maybe, less than that, and I had a whole attic, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. And then when I was moving, looking for a house when my daughter was gonna be born, like I ran into this place, and I went upstairs and saw like the real wood paneling, and it looks like a creepy cabin. And I was like, oh my God, and I just fell in love with this place. And yeah, it's just grown and grown. People always ask me like, oh, what are you gonna do when you run out of room? And I'm like, I don't talk about that. It's too depressing. Like, I don't want to think about that at all. So, and yeah, I don't know, this is my Valhalla, when I'm feeling down or anything, like I come up here and it cheers me up. Like I could be broke, have no money, but be up here on a Friday night and be like, dude, I'm having a blast on a Friday night. So I guess I'm always a kid in heart and never gonna grow up, and I'm down with that. So yes, it's definitely an addiction. I've been collecting since 1999, and I haven't gotten a paycheck without buying a movie. I don't want to stop. I couldn't stop if I had to. Like, yeah, it's part of my soul. It's who I am.
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. One word, horror.